This may very well be one of the most important videos that you may ever watch. How close are we on the timeline, and how close are we to Yeshua, Jesus, returns? I'm going to tell you that it's right at the door and it's knocking. Now is not a time to sleep. Now is a time to be vigilant and stay awake. In Matthew 24, you may have heard a lot of these verses, but you're going to see something new right here. He says that there will be wars and rumors of wars, and nation will rise against nation. There will be famines and pestilences in various places and earthquakes. Look on Google, do a search, see how many earthquakes have happened all throughout history since the first century. That's when end time started, when Jesus, Yeshua, died, boom, and he resurrected. That's the start of the end times. Now listen, he says that their nation will rise against nation. Think how many wars there have been. Think how many famines there have been. Look it up on Google. Look how many diseases and pestilences and the millions of people that have died as a result for war. You look in Revelation, it says that 1/3 would be cut off or would die. That's even in World War I and II, 1/3 of the population was killed. Now, not only that, but the amount of famines that have came through is killed many people throughout history. But he says that you would be handed over. The end is not yet. He said you'd be handed over and you'd be hated for my name. Many tribulations would come. You'd be hated for my name's sake. Now think about the millions of people throughout history for 2,000 years that have died on account of preserving the word that we read today. The very Bible that we read, they have died. Not only that, how many people throughout history has hated those that kept the commandments of God or kept the faith in Yeshua, Jesus? I want you to think about that. I'm trying to show you where we're at. And look what he says. And many will be offended and will betray one another and will hate one another. They will start hating each other. That's why we're starting to have all these divisions come up, all this disunity. And we have to try to come up with humanitarian efforts and ways to resolve a matter that only God, Yeshua, and his laws can only fix and resolve. Now look what he says. The many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. When people start betraying each other, this has been going on, guys. The hypergrace movement, for example, or the prosperity movement started in the 1940s and started really prospering in the 1960s and onward. Think about how many false prophets, even from people like Joseph Smith, came up in 1820, 1830, and started speaking of a false prophecy. Think about Muhammad after Jesus, after, 100 AD? He started coming up and started saying that, basically he replaced Jesus pretty much. He is another prophet and he has another testament, just like Mormonism, another testament of Jesus. We don't need another testament. We have the word. We have the testament. We have the old and the new, and that's all we need to become Bible believers. Now look what he says. That's not only that, but how many cults and movements have risen up and led many people astray. Now look what he says. Because of lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Listen, this is how close we are. Look what he says. Because of lawlessness, this is from the law, God's laws, the love of many will grow cold. And cold, if you look in this context, is psycho. It's not a mental illness. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. But in a it's a spiritual mental illness. Psycho is, what does he say? People's love growing cold. That's waning love. It's diminishing. It's becoming little. Love is growing cold because of distance from the law. So they're going to betray each other. They're going to be led astray to various false prophets and movements. But look what he says. But he who endures until the end shall be saved. Listen, look at what he says. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. What is this gospel? It's the gospel that we have been hearing for years and centuries. The entire world nonetheless has heard. There may be some small groups that are, indigenous groups that may not have heard, but they are hearing now. The word is being translated in languages all over. It's accessible by internet. Even in remote villages, people are hearing the word. I can't really tell you that there really isn't people that haven't heard. They're going to have a chance no matter what. But look what he says. That's how close we are. And if you think, well, let me try to figure out where in the timeline are we? Look what he says. He's going to test. There's a test right now. Do we love God? Will we be led astray? How do you know? Your heart will grow cold. You'll start betraying, which means turn from each other. You will start turning from your brothers and sisters that you used to be in unity with, that you used to love, that you used to do good deeds for, that you used to care for and cherish. And you're going to go off in the various movements because your heart is being led astray. And God is letting you. But look what he says. He says, I will not allow one of my sheep, his true sheep, to not be rescued. None of them would be led astray. Guys, he knows. And you want to make sure that you're his sheep. I think all of us should be introspecting and checking ourselves, asking God to value our heart, soul, and mind to make sure that we truly got it. That our heart is not growing cold. That we are not becoming distant from the law. Look what he says in 2 Peter 3:4. They will say, where is this coming he promised? Ever since our ancestors died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation. People will start saying that he's really not returning. So what is he going to say? They're going to go on and do like he said, eating and drinking in Luke, eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building and giving in the marriage, business as usual. They'll continue doing those things because they're not really believing he's coming back. Because they think it's been going on for 2,000 years. This will go on as it always has. This isn't just a non-believer. It's those that are scoffing and mocking at the true word. In Jude 1:18, how they told you that there would be mockers in the last time who would walk according to their own ungodly lust. That's the same word. Mockers. They're going after their own lust. And a mocker is a false teacher. It's a scoffer. One that laughs and jeers and has to have an opinion about every single thing that is being preached according to truth. They can't let it go. They have to defend. They have to fight. They have to argue. Not only that, they don't want to listen. Their ears are shut. Their hearts are rock. They're ice. They're cold. They don't want to listen. It's to delude and to deceive. That's what the words mean. Delude and to deceive. Woe to those. If you looked at one of my previous videos, woe to those who cause one of these little ones to stumble. It's those that are not think of as important of. Nobody thinks they have any importance. They think little of. They don't have any position or power or any authority. It's the ones that are often rejected. Woe to those that cause one of these little ones to stumble. Deceive. Look at this, and it was very interesting in Luke 17:25. But first, he must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. Just as the first century, he was rejected. In this generation before his coming, he will be rejected. He will be rejected. The word of God and the true word, the gospel, will be rejected. And he says, as it was in the days of Noah, so will it also be in the days of the Son of Man. And there they ate, they drank, they gave in the marriage, did all these things, had wives, and until the day the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise it also be when they sowed, they planted, they built. But on that day Lot went out. Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone. He said everything would be destroyed by fire in Peter. from heaven and destroy them all. Even so will it be in the day of the Son of Man is revealed. And is he being revealed in you? Is this making sense? Are you seeing the light of in the glory of the image of Jesus, of Yeshua, that is in the image of God? Are you seeing it? Are you understanding it? Is it changing you? Do you have any self-will, self-desire, self-ambitions? Are you feeding your own belly? Are you trying to preserve your own life? He says those who lose their lives will gain it for my sake. Are you seeking to feed his sheep, or are you trying to feed your own belly? Does this make sense? He says, feed my sheep to Peter 3 times. And he says it in the prophets. He says it in Ezekiel. It says in Jeremiah. He's feed. We must feed the sheep so that people understand the word. It's not enough to just walk into church and go with the band and sing and dance around. We need more power than that. We need to understand the love of God. We need to understand his heart. We need to draw close to him. It needs to penetrate the heart, change it. Remove that stony heart, the heart of ice and coldness, and be set on fire. Change our minds. Now I'm going to get into something else. And look what would happen. Rejected by this generation is also a separation. It's a physical and distance place. Look what he's saying. It's a separation, departing and a fleeing, being rejected by this generation. That's what he's saying. And it's the root word as well, is to examine, prove, and scrutinize to see whether it's really genuine or not. To recognize as genuine after examination, to approve or deem worthy. So are you rejecting the word? Are you overcoming the tests and the trials of these tribulations, or are you not? Look what he says, Luke 21:34-36. But take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing. Look at that. Carousing is just eating and drinking, having fun, laughing and joking, drunkenness and cares of this life. And that day comes on you unexpectedly, for it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the earth. We want to make sure that we are ready for the end times, what is coming. Look what he says. The final sign is people betraying and departing, not only from the faith, but each other, and the hearts growing cold. Is your heart growing cold? Does it have hate for your neighbor whatsoever? Are you releasing them from bondage? Are you releasing them from whatever they did to you? Can you honestly say in your heart, I forgive them? Can you feed them? Can you clothe them? Can you hug them? Can you shake their hands? Can you tell them, I love you, and mean it in your heart? Can you truly say, I forgive you? Even if you did wrong, maybe you should check yourself too. Maybe we all should, to see, and maybe I caused an offense to my brother or sister. Maybe we're all guilty. Maybe we should all say we're sorry. Maybe we should all come together and say, God, I need help. I want you to help me love more the way you did. Maybe I need help to make sure that I am in your kingdom, that I endure and overcome these things. Those who endure to the end will be saved. Don't let your heart grow cold. Now is not the time. Now is not the time. It's time to get serious, guys. Do not worry about where we are at in Revelation. Everybody has an opinion about Revelation. Everybody has a thought, or where would they think we are, or trying to track it. Don't try to figure it out. He said the warning signs. I just read it. And these are the signs. He says, stay awake so that you won't be found naked and exposed. Stay awake, or else I'll come like a thief in the night. He says it over and over. Look at 2 Corinthians 4:16-18. So we do not lose heart, though our outer self is wasting away. Is it wasting away? Or are you taking pleasure and delight in this world? Still have goals and dreams and ambitions rather for his kingdom coming. Our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing us for eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. Does this make sense? For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. So the things that we see change, but the things we can't see is eternal. So we need to see God with our hearts, with our minds, and not with our eyes. We need to see God and understand Him and draw closer to Him in a way now than ever before. Getting rid of the flesh, the desires of the hands, the lust of the eyes, the things that we long for. We love others, love each other, and love God. That's the whole Torah pretty much summarized. If you have His laws written on your heart and in your mind, you'll naturally do the things that He did, be able to forgive. Forgiveness is the final test of love. And if you cannot forgive and love your brother, you cannot have the presence of God, and you have been deceived. You have been deceived. Make sure that your heart is not growing cold, but is growing softer, that it is growing to be more on fire for God by His light and not an artificial light. Love each other, care for one another, and be there for one another. You don't want to let your guard down. Do not think that you know as much as you think you know. The closer you get to God, and this is a sign, the closer you get to God, the more you'll realize, I don't know. The less you realize, I don't know. We need to care and love for each other. If you have a time right now, anything in your heart right now that is causing you to fall astray, even if that's a church that you previously went to, you felt like they lied to you, forgive them.